All right, I think we should be good to go here. How's it going, everybody? This is the Awesemo.com NHL DFS strategy show. And there we go. I think we actually streamed to the correct place. So hopefully we don't get kicked off here by the NBA show. Uh, I am going to share this link now because it looks like we maybe did this correctly for the first time. Um, Here we go. Hopefully, you guys had a good night, a good day of hockey. I guess there's just games, 24/7. So, um, we're gonna keep streaming until we get kicked off. NBA Live Before Lock is also going on the other channel. I'm sorry, the same channel here, but it's just two different streams. We did this last, well, last fall, last spring. I mean, pre-COVID. I'll just say pre-COVID. Um, McDavid nuked the slate last night. We'll go over that because the guy's just absolutely insane. Um, I don't even know. Like, you can't even be mad at it. Like, you just have to kind of appreciate how good he is. And when you fade him or you go underweight on him, that's what can happen. I mean, 3 minutes into the game, he just completely wrecked everything. So that's gonna happen a couple times. I'm sure a couple more times during these playoffs because he's just that nasty. He's unstoppable. Yep, Scott, you're exactly right. Cheat code. It literally looks like a video game when this guy's playing. Getting Slack alerts from people. So I'm going to treat this like we can just keep going like normal. Usually I have Josh help me with some of this YouTube stuff, but I think I remembered how to make it so we've got two streams going on at once because the Live Before Lock show is going to be starting very soon for NBA. Today, DK, we've got a 2:30 Eastern time lock. NBA is at 1:30 Eastern, so that's in just under an hour. And then, boy, we've got MLB Live Before Lock at, what is that, 6 Eastern. Pretty crazy stuff. No, there's another NBA lock as well. There's just a ton going on. So when in doubt, check out the Awesemo.com YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the like button, all that stuff. Really helps us out. Yep, got Kevin Fiala as the cover boy today because, Fiala is one of the more dangerous players, I think. It looks like this guy's going to score every time he touches the puck. He's obviously not McDavid, but he's really tough to watch if you don't have him, based on how he's played with the Wild. That first game looked really dangerous, and so Jake D, who does the graphics, the other Jake here, he's like, who do you want on the thumbnail? And Fiala was the guy. So you see in Kevin Fiala's beautiful face when you click on this show. This was last night. I've got lineup study pulled up, and Brippy we're gonna go with B Ripey, something like that. Took it down 150 maxer. Could kind of see the writing on the wall with this lineup. As soon as the McDavid thing happened, I figured Brightby had a pretty good chance of taking this down. Got an empty netter at the end from Gensel. That certainly helped. Had the Nurse McDavid combo with Nugent Hopkins, who also had a huge game. No clef bomb here. Nice differentiation because a lot of people, including myself, in their Edmonton lineups, just went with Clef and like an Edmonton stack. And sometimes weird stuff happens. And Nurse ended up being an okay play. 10.6 points, just kind of solid production all around. Lowry, Roslovic got that late swap in, or I guess swap right before lock. Roslovic, I think on FC we had him at top line, maybe centering, or no, Wheeler centering Roslovic and Ehlers or something like that. Anyways, he was on the third line, and nice combo here. Lowry, Roslovic. I had a couple of those lineups as well, but I actually didn't get Appleton out of a couple, and just for no reason. I just forgot to see if I had any Appleton. Must have crunched too early. I ended up way down here. Let's see. Still going. I actually should probably just search for myself. Nothing very impressive for me. Yeah, lost over half. Looked like a decent night again until McDavid went nuts. I think I was a little under the field on him, but that happens. Let's talk about. Let's see. I'm trying to stall here to see if we can get the lineup builder up and running. I think that might upload at. I think that might go up at like 1 Eastern. So should have enough time to build some stuff, build some lineups if you do use the lineup builder. SuperDraft is the sponsor of the show today. As always, if you want to get up to actually up to $20 if you deposit 100. If you deposit 10 plus, you get 10 in SuperDraft cash. Use promo code Awesemo10, and that is how you get some free money, some seed money to start out building your bankroll. There's been overlay the first couple days on SuperDraft, so go play. Like, you're not going to find a better contest than one that overlays in DFS these days. So I've been just using, I think you can use the FanDuel or DraftKings projections. We don't have SuperDraft specific projections, but if you go into FC, if you have it, or if you just play around with some of your builds, you can build an optimal lineup pretty easily with the multipliers. There's no salaries on SuperDraft. It is multiplier scoring. So you can play Connor McDavid every night, but he's going to have a 1x multiplier. And so when he scores 30 points, or I think I can't remember what his total was on SuperDraft last night, but when he scores a bunch of points, and you play someone that has a 1.75 multiplier, you don't need as much production out of the lesser players. So it kind of evens the playing field between the studs and the lesser players, which is what I like about SuperDraft. Just want to make sure. Okay. I want to make sure the Live Before Lock show is live, so I'm not taking over their stream or anything like that. 430 waiting for them over there. Looks like we've got a decent amount of people going here. We don't have the lineup builder view, so I will just do this off to the side. See a bunch of familiar names in the chat. Thank you all for joining. It's great to have sports back, that's for sure. Let's start with the first game. Well, actually, the first game is underway. Florida and the Islanders. Let's start with the first game of this DFS slate. Arizona, Nashville, Darcy Kemper, and UC Saros. 2.4 implied total for Arizona, about 2.7 for Nashville, depending on where you look. One thing I noticed is that the totals are really, really low. And maybe it's just because of how the teams are matching up. I know a bunch of the unders have hit. I've seen that. I mean, maybe you can compare this to like early season hockey, where it's a little bit sloppier. Teams aren't as sharp. Players are at different points in their conditioning, whatever you want to call it. Maybe we're just going to see lower totals throughout the entirety of the playoffs. Hard to say, but just something to be aware of. Now, Nashville is down in the series 1-0. Last game, we didn't see any hard matching or anything crazy from the Preds. Probably won't see that here again. Bonino, Grimaldi, and Craig Smith line, they usually get a decent amount of time against the opposing top six. If I was Nashville, I'd probably put the Johansson line against Hall, Dvorak, Kessel. I'm not sure if they're going to do that. If they're going to go out of their way to do that, I guess. That I'm unsure if that's actually going to happen. So I'm just treating it like there's no real hard match, and I'm just playing what I think are the best lines. So I think Nashville one is okay. I want to look at their ownership here and make sure I'm not speaking off base, because I think they're probably going to be, man. We actually don't have Nashville 1. Oh, that's on FanDuel. Let me look at the DK ownership. Yeah, they're getting a little bit of steam. I would say they're probably like the third or fourth highest owned line. But the number, if you look at Johansson, Arvidsson, and Forsberg, who was super active in the first game, if you look at the numbers for that line, they're just insane. It feels like they never get there, or they never all get there together. Or Johansson gets you a 0 or something like that. So Nashville 1 has been kind of a pretty tough line to get a grasp on for the better part of 2 years. But they always dominate possession, and it's just going to be a matter of, can Arvidsson and Forsberg finish some of their chances like Forsberg did a couple times last game. So they're good value. Looking at the top stack tool, they look to be a little bit over-owned. So do with that what you will. Certainly going to have some of them in my 150 builds on DK. Right now I'm looking at about, so they're sliding down my ranking or my exposures just a little bit because they are a little bit over-owned. Right now I only have 5 shares out of 150. That's going to come up for sure. I'm going to have more than 3% of Nashville 1. I think I'll get closer to like half the field if they're a 12 to 15% owned stack. They're a solid line. I don't want to miss out on them for sure. But on the other side of Arizona, Dvorak, Hall, Kessel, that was a line that was thrown together last game, right before lock, and it looked like they were going to be the complete nuts after the first period, and then Hall missed an empty netter. They were very close to a couple bonuses. They all had a couple points, I think, but ultimately I think you could compete in tournaments without them. So really good first period, then kind of petered out. Still like them, Dvorak, Hall, and Kessel. But again, I just don't have a ton of ownership in this game. Getting to some Arizona power play stacks again with Keller, and then Arizona 1 plus Ekman Larson. So I've got some of that, but we've got some pretty high ownership on Taylor Hall. And I would imagine Nashville's going to get a game at some point in this series. So I'm probably not doing many game stacks of this game. I usually don't do very many game stacks anyways. And that's going to be the same way I approach things for today. Mix in a few, but maybe you could game stack Carolina and the Rangers. I think that might be my favorite one. But it's hard to get behind just game stacking a bunch of these games. They're not super appealing with all the low totals, the 5.5s with juice to the under, the 5s with a little bit of juice to the over. Nolan's messaging me. Wait, It's UC Saros. No, I don't think it's Saros. Did I say it was Saros? We have Rene in the projection. So if it is Saros, I'll just have to update that really quick after the show. I'll have to check on that. Sorry, just messaging Nolan back. I think that's all I got for the forwards. Yossi and Ellis, both solid plays. I'm going to have a bunch of Yossi. He's probably going to be my highest owned player. I like paying up for D-men. Salary doesn't look too tough. 7,200 for him, I think, is a fine price. When you look at all the other defensemen on the slate, like, who else is really a stud that gets top power play time, that gets 25 minutes? He's kind of in a tier of his own. Gio, I would put him up there. The problem with Gio is that he's not running that top power play. So I like paying up for Yossi. Whenever I can fit him in lineups tonight, I'll get different elsewhere. And certainly would get to Yossi if I'm stacking Nashville 1, which it looks like is going to be popular tonight. Let's go to the next game. We've got Columbus and Toronto, 2.5 implied total for the Blue Jackets, about 3 for the Maple Leafs. Columbus stole the game on the road in their first matchup. It's going to be Korpisalo against Freddie Anderson. They're not confirmed, but that's the thought here. Korpisalo won game 1. Anderson's always the Leafs guy. They're not going with whoever they have behind him. I like the Leafs here. You would think that they're going to bounce back, but just because it's a must-win game for them doesn't mean that they're actually going to win it. I think people forget that sometimes. I think the betting markets overreact to that sometimes, where, like, Toronto, when Columbus played Tampa last year and they won the first game and they won the second game, and all the, they were still like heavily favored all 4 games and just like way juiced up because the betting public is just thinking, oh, they have to win this game. They'll win the game. That doesn't always happen, especially in low scoring sports like hockey. So just something to be aware of. If you are betting, you might not get the greatest line. On Toronto, I'm not a real big betting guy. Do it every once in a while, but I think Toronto was like minus 175 at some point, maybe yesterday, to win this game, which seems a little bit high. Columbus, as we saw, pretty good defensive team. Yeah. Campbell's soup. I don't think he's coming in the game unless Freddie gets hurt. Now, the Leafs are going to be popular, probably rightfully so. I don't think, it didn't look to me like they played too bad. I looked at some of the numbers, and both the Tavares line and the Matthews line did a decent job at generating shot attempts. They weren't fantastic at generating like quality scoring chances, but good enough for me to, it's not like it's a matchup thing with them. They're at their home. They get to choose who goes out second. They get last change is what I'm trying to say. I like the Tavares, Marner, and Mikheyev trio a lot. It looks like it's going to be quite a bit lower owned than Toronto won. So I actually really, really like Toronto. Not crazy. I mean, Hyman is going to have low ownership, right? And Mikheyev is going to get left off for some. You can do a Leafs power play stack. A little worried about Columbus being pretty good at 5-on-5. I don't think they take a lot of penalties. So if they can stay out of the box, if they can stay out of the penalty box again, that's your key to fading the Leafs, I think. If the Leafs start getting the power play going, they're about as scary as anyone. So Leaf power play, I like Tavares, Marner, Mikheyev, as I said. That'll be a main stack of mine. I don't know that it's going to be my highest exposed stack, but I think I'm going to get to double digits on that one, and it doesn't look like they're reaching double-digit ownership as a whole. So expensive, but always the shiny object you can't resist. Oh, the Leafs? Or are you referring to Roman Josi? I'm generally pretty low on the Leafs, I think, and I'm usually higher on Tavares and Marner when they're together, and then Matthews and Nylander usually get most of the ownership. So if you can figure out a way to jam them all in, and you're just going for the onslaught, I've got no problem with that. I don't see the Leafs. I haven't seen anything that says the Leafs are going to make changes to their lines. They usually stick for the most part throughout the season. They played fine in terms of possession. Wow. Tavares was with Marner and Matthews in the third period last games. If the Leafs are down early, watch for that. Yeah, that certainly could happen. So that would be a scary line to be anti-sweating. Although this will be the second game of the slate, maybe you won't be anti-sweating, but yeah, they could certainly pull that out of their bag of tricks. Sorry, I keep getting slacked. I want to make sure I'm not affecting anything on the NBA Live Before Lock show. On the Columbus side, really the only line that I think I'm going to have a substantial amount of, and meaning like more than 5 or more than like 3% ownership, because I think I'm going to be under 3 on all these other Columbus lines as I refresh this. I think it's going to be Columbus 1. Not like the brand names, Dubois, Bjorkstrand, Tessier. I don't think Tessier is that bad. And they played really well. Bjorkstrand always generates a lot of shot attempts, scoring chances, and then Dubois, pretty solid all-around player. So we don't have a big sample of them playing together. But they're going to go up against the fast-paced Leafs lines. They're probably going to see the Matthews line a bunch. And that's not one that you need to avoid defensively. So looks like their ownership is, yeah, it's really low. I mean, their top 2 stack percentage isn't super high, but they're very cheap. So I like Columbus 1 a lot. If you want to leave off the third wheel here and you just want to go with Bjorkstrand and Dubois, nothing wrong with that, especially if you're going like 5-man power play stack. I like the 5-2-1 as well. I've been running a bunch of those in my 150 maxes, and I think in the mid-stake stuff as well. So Leafs get swept, could happen. I mean, it's quick series, right? You can't go down 0-2. But it's happened. It happened with Tampa last year in a 7-game series. They lost 4 straight. Lost my place here. Defenseman. I'm playing some Morgan Riley one-offs. I'm probably going to only play Tyson Barrie. I'm probably going to only play Tyson Barrie with like a Leafs either line 1, line 2, or power play stack, because I don't think the minutes are going to be huge for him, and it's hard for me to play a ton of one-off defensemen for 5K when he's probably not going to play 20 minutes. And it's like I feel like Tyson Barrie's value is, like, if he has a breakout game or he has a big performance, multiple points, that probably means that Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, and Marner are having big games. So that's just how I look at it with Tyson Barrie. It's not like he's a bad DFS player or anything like that. I wonder if Cody Ceci will get some love here at $2,500. Yeah, I think I listed Savard in the cheat sheets. I don't mind. I don't mind Savard for 3,700. He played over 20 last game. If you think the Leafs are going to be pounding Korpisalo with shots, maybe Savard can block a few of them, get you the block shot bonus. I mean, it only takes 3 to get there, but obviously you like to get to Werenski and Jones if you can. Werenski is just kind of in no man's land for me. Like, he's not Yossi, but he's priced like he is. People love targeting D-men against Toronto, but we're still showing relatively low ownership for Zach Werenski. So if you wanted to take a stab at a guy who's got some upside, him or Seth Jones, I think those would be more one-off options for my money, at least. Bunch of Blue Jackets in my playoff pool last year, and everyone thought I was nuts. Are you a Blue Jackets fan? Seems like you might be. Jackets got Torts leading them. Yes, they do. All right, let's go to the next game. I think we're good there. Oh, Nick Robertson is $2,500, and let me take a quick look at how many minutes he played. He almost played 13 minutes. Not terrible, but just a guy that scored a ton in the AHL. So if you're completely punting, Robertson might be an option for you. If you're if you're going like double defenseman stack in Minnesota with Spurgeon and Suter. I know that's not great, but like Atlas, Yossi, and Nashville won, and you need a one-off min salary guy. Robertson is probably your best bet, I would think. Calgary, Winnipeg. I thought this game was not on the slate last night when I looked. I thought I made an error somewhere, but they are playing back-to-backs. Now, they played yesterday earlier in the day, so I guess they get a little bit more than a day break, and same thing with Carolina and the Rangers. But yeah, they are playing back-to-backs for this qualifying series. I'm not sure how it goes, if they're going to do that going forward. Doesn't matter. They're on the slate today. Winnipeg got a massive win yesterday despite missing Line and Scheifele. Now, the goalies could be a little bit squirrely here. I'm not sure. I would guess Winnipeg just goes back to Hellebuck, and they just kind of ride him until and try to move through the series, and then hopefully get him some rest is probably their thought process. He's 7,300. That's a really nice price for a guy that's probably going to see volume. Now, I get it if you don't want to play a goalie on a back-to-back. He's seen a pretty big workload. But you could say the same thing for Cam Talbot. Not as much of a workload. I don't really know what to do with Winnipeg here because they're going to be popular. Kopp, Connor, and Wheeler, one of the more popular lines on the slate. And Kopp was on the top power play yesterday for a while, but then I believe Ehlers ended up... I don't know if he took a spot or if... I know Ehlers ended up on the power play. I saw Cliffy's tweet. But I'm going to have to look and see if Kopp is actually going to play on the top power play because I'm unsure about that. Anyways, they project pretty well for us. One of the better value lines, 16.6 in total. I still do think Calgary is going to win this series, though, despite losing that game on home ice. I think going back to Calgary 2 is probably my favorite play here, just because, the top stack tool doesn't think that they're great today. I think they're a little bit overowned. However, really good numbers, still a decimated forward crew for Winnipeg. They're not great defensively, even with Scheifele and Line. And now you get, yes, it's the back-to-back, but I like Calgary in this game once again. So probably going to end up around the field on Winnipeg 1. They're just good value, and they get last change. So, being on home ice, if you want to call it that. So, Winnipeg, perfectly fine with me. Don't think I'm taking a major stance on them, but I think I will be quite a bit above the field on Calgary 2 specifically. You can pair them with Gio. He is on the second unit. Gustafsson got all the time yesterday. Once again on the top unit, which kind of stinks, but you could play Calgary 2 because with Gio because Mangiapane and Backlund are going to be on that second unit with him. So, and I like Gio as a one-off. Once again, doing the peripheral stuff. He'll be up there in terms of my highest owned defenseman. I'm not a big Gustafsson guy, even though he's 3,600. Like, he's probably one of those guys that gets some steam just because he's power play 1 on the optimizers, and people like power play stacks, including myself. But I'm probably going to limit. My plan is to just limit Gustafsson to Flames 1 stacks or power play stacks, power play 1 stacks or something like that. Just so I'm not going crazy with him, because he does look like a good value, but it's kind of like Tyson Barrie, and he's cheaper than Tyson Barrie, but it's kind of like him in that I think a lot of his value is tied to Calgary 1 and or Calgary power play having a big game here. Anything else here? I'm looking through my exposures. These obviously aren't final, but I ran them like I would if the slate was starting right before the show, so should be pretty close to what I actually end up with. Neil Pionk, like, for whatever reason, I'm getting to a bunch of him. When I filtered down some of my lineups and took out the ones I kind of don't like, like Pionk grades out as a really good value for us. I'm debating whether or not to do the same thing with Pionk, whether you make a group or you just go through your Pionk lineups and kind of take him out of the ones that don't have Jets. And I think that's what's pulling up the Jets a little bit for me. So, because right now I would be getting to like 30+% Pionk. I don't think that that's necessary. I don't think he's a player that kills you too often. But he is top power play. He goes with the cheap Jets. So I might even be lower on the Jets, lower on Pionk by the time we get to lock. And I might actually end up a little bit underweight on that Winnipeg 1 stack. If you're going to one-offs, Ehlers looks pretty good to me, 4,700, especially if he's going to get some top power play run. He could go back to Lowry, Harkins, Roslovic. I think they had their game already. Maybe they see some time against Calgary 1 and are able to generate some chances. I'm not so sure that I'll be going back to the Adam Lowry train, even though he binked yesterday, him and Roslovic. They binked the 20K. Is Calgary 2 or Calgary as a whole team contrarian tonight? Because I'm with you. I love them today. Well, I mean, they're favored, so I don't think they're crazy contrarian. No, they're not. They're not super contrarian today, according to our ownership projections. By the way, I forgot to mention the promo code we still have going on. Promo code NHL is back. Gets you 50% off your first month of the NHL monthly pass. You can add on FC after you purchase it if you choose. FC is not discounted, but it is a really good tool for if you're making multiple lineups for NHL DFS. And then if you like hand building, we do have the lineup builder, so that'll get updated shortly, and you can export straight from the lineup builder. See Alex's rankings while you're making the lineup and kind of get you a GPA is what it's called once you fill out an entire lineup. So a little bit of everything. We've got projections, ownership projections, plus all the free stuff, including the show. And you get to be in Slack as well. Slack is a pretty good time in the NHL streets. Last couple games. This is where I think the slate gets pretty interesting. Carolina and and the New York Rangers back-to-back. For this one as well, about a 3 implied total for Carolina, 2.5-ish for the Rangers. Carolina is up 2-0 in the series. They took another game yesterday. Looked pretty good doing it. I'm trying to pull up the time shorthanded numbers for Carolina here, because I believe they weren't that high. They weren't as high as I thought. Where are they at? Yeah, they're middle of the pack, with an okay kill. But I don't know exactly what the Rangers are going to do with their lines, and so this game we're not going to know until this game locks at 8 Eastern, so we'll know at 7:35, 7:40 Eastern, around there. So I don't know what the Rangers are going to do, if they're going to play Mika and Panarin together, if they're just going to play them together some shifts. Jesper Fast, I think I don't expect him to come back. It was Strome, Panarin, and Kakko, I believe, in their last game. I'm getting all the days mixed up because this one wasn't on the main slate. Anyways, we don't know what the lines are going to be for the Rangers. I think one way you could get a little bit different, and you can always swap down if you need to, is just to flip-flop Kreider and Panarin, and that's going to get you a way different lineup construction. Worst case scenario, you could end up just leaving it there. Panarin's going to be on the top power play with Zibanejad. He'll probably get some run even if they don't start the game together. I think there's a chance that they do start the game together, though. They played a bunch together yesterday. Now, yes, they were down in the game and trying to come back, and they did that in the first game too. They played quite a few shifts together. But the Rangers being on home ice here really, really matters to them, because now if they choose to, they don't have to deal with Stahl. They don't have to put Zibanejad and his line mates against Stahl for pretty much the entire game. They can go up against Teravainen, Aho, Svechnikov. That's a much better matchup in terms of generating offense against a line. And I think I prefer Rangers 1. Like, looking at the ownership on them, it's decently high, but it's actually nothing crazy. So I'm glad to see that. I think you can get weird with the combos. Like I said, I think you can go Mika, Panarin, and Buchnevich, or Mika, Panarin, and Kreider. There's a lot of interesting power play stacks you can cook up here with D'Angelo. I'm going to have some full-on Rangers power play stacks. Carolina is a team that takes a decent amount of penalties, and looking at the Rangers power play this season, they were middle of the pack, and I don't know. I think the Rangers offense is really good, and when they have last change, they can be very, very scary. I think Mika might be one of the scariest players to not have, or to anti-sweat. He's another one that looks like he's just going to score every time he's got the puck. Maybe it's just when I don't have a lot of Rangers, I feel that way, but Mika's a stud. Panarin, we obviously know what he's capable of, and if you do go with Panarin and Zibanejad together, and you guess right, I don't think much of the field at all is going to have that combo outside of just full power play stacks. So that's something I'm considering. I'm leaning towards doing it and just making the manual change in FC. And if it doesn't work out that way, or you need to swap off, at least you get a ton of salary to. You could swap to Vancouver 2. You could swap to Carolina, depending on how your lineup's doing. But I think leaving your options open, especially with some real good value in the first couple games. You mentioned Nashville's underpriced. Nashville 1. I like Columbus won a little bit. I think Winnipeg 1 is a good value. I really like Calgary 2 as a value. So there's a ton of options, and that's why I think maybe going with Zibanejad and Panarin on the same line and figuring it out afterwards, after lock, is an interesting way to go. Probably not playing too much D'Angelo without Rangers in my lineups. And then on the other side, Vatanen, 4,700. Man, the defensive guys, as I go through each and every one of these, they're not very special. So it's going to be a Roman Josi day for me. It almost always is. But maybe even more so than usual. I might end up with like 45, 50, 60% of my lineups with Josi. Someone's going to pop off, but I like taking some of these power play 1 quarterbacks and limiting my shares to them plus players on their team. If you kind of catch my drift there. That is baseball stuff. Okay. Let's go to the last game on the slate. Minnesota and Vancouver. This one's pretty much a dead heat. I think Minnesota earlier when I looked was a slight favorite. Depending on where you look, it's about a 2.75 total for both sides. Now, Minnesota got the best of Vancouver in game 1. They're healthy, and they're a pretty scary team, at least for a team like Vancouver, which isn't phenomenal. It was interesting to see that Toffoli, Pedersen, and Miller saw a bunch of time against Stahl, Fiala, and Greenway. I actually love that matchup for them. Now, Vancouver, too, some of the better numbers in all of the NHL. They've got a pretty good sample together. And if they're going to see Parise and Greenway and Stahl, Fiala, Greenway, and Stahl for a decent amount of time, I thought Horvat would be stuck on them for most of the series. But that didn't look to be the case in the first game. So, Vancouver 2, right now I'm like 3-4x the field on them. I just really believe in the line. Minnesota's a tough matchup for sure, but getting that last change advantage for this line, putting them in solid spots. I think they generated like 12 shot attempts last game, so nothing special, but it's not like they got shut down. And as long as that's the case, I think they're going to be able to finish chances at some point, at least over the long run they have. And I think people are impressed with Minnesota from talking to some people that play NHL DFS. People are worried about targeting against Minnesota. The ownership suggests that people are really not looking forward to targeting against Minnesota, especially not with this second line. I think it's still a good price for them. 18-5, tough home matchup. We saw them up, I think, closer to like 20K, 21K at some point this season. This is a fine price for me. So Top Stack Tool likes them. I like them. Matchup certainly could be better, but that's not going to stop me from playing a low-owned Vancouver 2. I'm going to have more than the field for sure on Vancouver 2, unless I, for some reason, have to end up swapping off everything, which I doubt it because they're already low-owned. So if I've got something cooking in the first games, if Calgary 2 goes off or one of the other value stacks goes off, having one of the other value stacks with a non-Toronto, non-Carolina or something like that, I think is going to be already unique. So I'm looking forward to this game. It's super late, but I hope I'm sweating some Vancouver too, and they can continue to do work that they've done really since they got Toffoli. You can go Vancouver power play stack. Throw in Horvat. Looking at where Minnesota was for the season, they were middle of the pack in time shorthanded. They were middle of the pack and killing penalties off. I know they had some issues early at home. I don't know. It's hard to read into that when the season started 9 months ago or whatever it was. So Vancouver 2 is kind of my favorite play from this last game. Stahl Fiala looks a little bit under-owned as a stack. Hard to do an ownership projection on Fiala just because he's played so well leading up to the break. His price got quite a bump, but he's down to 6,600 now. He was 6,800 last game. So if you want to go Stahl Fiala, I like that stack. And then Conan Parisi and Eriksson Ek. I just think there's better value stacks than them. So like I like the idea of them. And it looks like a few of those lineups with Parisi especially are getting up to the top, maybe a couple Minnesota power play stacks. I just don't know if there's a huge need to have a bunch of Minnesota too. So right now I'm looking at about 4 or 5%, and I think I'm pretty comfortable with that. So just to go through it really quick, looking at my exposures right now, again, these will change a little bit, but like top value stacks, Winnipeg's top line, and then I like Calgary too in that same game. Minnesota, I think Stahl, Fiala, and Greenway are they're pretty good value as a trio, or just going with Stahl and Fiala. Columbus 1, gonna be overweight on them. And then in terms of like top stacks, I think my top expensive stack is either gonna be Vancouver 2 or Rangers 1. Like I'll have some Leafs, but it's mostly gonna be. I shouldn't say it's mostly gonna be. It's a lot of my Leafs stacks will be very off the board with the rest of my lineup, just because they're expensive and they're popular, and that kind of gets you into a certain lineup construction. And I don't want all my lineups to be in the same lineup construction. So I like them, but a little worried about Columbus on D, and I just hope, like I think if the Leafs go nuts on this slate, I'm going to have a real rough one based on my exposures, unless it's Tavares, Mikheyev, and Marner full line goals or something like that. So Rangers 1/Rangers power play 1's Zibanejad, Panarin, Kreider, Butch, some mixture of those guys. Vancouver 2, I'm hoping for big nights out of them. And I think that's all I've got for the slate. Again, SuperDraft is the sponsor. They've got stuff. Well, first of all, SuperDraft doesn't lock right at the same time as DK and FanDuel. I think FanDuel's going with the 6:45 Eastern lock today. But anyways, SuperDraft is great because you don't have to worry about salaries. You can play whoever you want, but you get extra points for playing some guys that might be lower owned on other sites, which is nice. I've made a decent amount of money actually on SuperDraft, just uploading the DraftKings projections and just letting it run, doing maybe a couple more uniques because it's less lineups, trying to cover some bases here, and it's overlaid a couple times. So, if you want to make a cash lineup over there, they've got some double ups. They had a $25 double up I think I got in yesterday, and I think there was a couple people missing in that. So turned out to be another good night on SuperDraft NHL. Come join, use promo code Awesemo10 to get $10 in SuperDraft cash to kind of start off your bankroll. And if you got any questions about SuperDraft, feel free to hit me up in the Slack chat. Promo code NHL is back is how you get 50% off your first month of the NHL monthly pass. All these shows will be going up on podcast. We do have separate feeds now. I forgot to mention this yesterday. We do have separate feeds for separate sports. So we've got the main feed that uploads everything, so you can continue to follow that. But if you only want NBA shows, let's say there's an Awesemo NBA channel on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, all that. So we're in the process of setting this all up. So bear with us if it's not perfect, but things should be up on iTunes and in their correct categories, which is hopefully going to be very helpful to you guys. So you got to go subscribe to Awesemo PGA DFS or Awesemo NBA DFS, or there's an NHL DFS one. There's UFC, NASCAR, there will be NFL, fantasy football. And just real quick, we have fantasy football rankings. So if you got your drafts coming up, click on this right here on Awesemo.com. You got Odd Shopper. We'll be talking a lot more about that coming up, but we've got some pretty cool features. So go click around on Awesemo.com, and there's really something for everything. It feels like we just keep growing and growing. So that's in large part due to you guys. Thank you for watching. If you could hit the like button on the way out, that helps us out a ton. I will be back. It won't just be me blabbering tomorrow. So you guys will be spared. If you like the show and you like Cliffy's analysis, well, you're in luck for tomorrow. He'll be back on, and we will break it down. I'm assuming we've got another 4 to 6 game slate. It'll be a good time. Good luck, everyone, and stay up to date in Slack for these line changes and or goalies. We could have some craziness today.